Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is Mynor Ramos with Advanced Insurance Services. And as always, I'm joined by Michael Domico. We're going to be talking today about something very interesting. I think this is going to be a good one. It might be a little spicy. We might not make some friends on this one, Mike. What do you think?
I don't know. We'll definitely make some enemies for
Oh,
sure.
it's a way. Yeah, I think that's. Hey, listen, being a rebel sometimes is a good way to make a change because what we realized is that the industry, the insurance and financial services industry, is plagued with a lot of stuff that really needs to change. And that's why we're here. Your contribution is, you many times you've said it, privately and public that, the insurance industry has done so much for you that you want to give back. But we really want to start talking about what's what's wrong with the industry and how can we fix it. Now, you mentioned there were two different things in particular that really kind of float your boat there, and I think that maybe we'll start out with that. Why don't you start out with the first two that you mentioned, and we'll go from there. Part time.
Not sure which two I mentioned, but
Yeah,
okay.
the part time agents.
Oh, okay. This is definitely a pet peeve of mine. Um, so I was in college and I was getting ready to get married. It was 1971, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I was in West Virginia at the time, and I would go down to the unemployment office in West Virginia, and I took a battery of tests, things I should look at. And it came back with things like I should be a major in the Army. I didn't want to join the Army. I should be director of a YMCA. I never figured out how that came up. Or I should be in some sort of sales. Well, that made sense to me. And every time I would go down to the unemployment office, I'd go by a Prudential office. Well, my dad worked for Prudential and he was very, very successful. So I grew up around insurance. And one day I finally decided I'd go in to the Prudential office and talk to them about maybe getting a job. And long story short, they hired me and that started my career in February of 1971. Um, I've been in the insurance industry continuously since then. I've tried other things to augment what I do in insurance and found out every time I did that, all I did was lose money. So I got to the point where I stopped doing everything else and just stick to insurance. So now times progressed. Insurance companies got lower and lower and lower on the totem pole of training to the point that there is none. And then they tell these young people starting out, well, you get licensed and then we'll hire you. Well, that was big of them. Um, and they throw them out into the industry and they say, by the way, you can work in the grocery store and pay for your bills while you're learning the insurance industry, which brings us to part-time agents. I cannot stand them. Now, I don't say that to be elitist. I don't say that to be condescending. I remember one time I had a client call me up and said, Mike, I'm looking at this insurance policy and I'd like you to compare it to what you can do. Well, I've compared policies for years. I said, okay. Well, he told me the company was from, and I won't mention the name, but there was a basketball coach that decided that you could do life insurance part-time. And was one of his agents who was meeting with the client. And I said, look, Jim, with all due respect, I said, I think you should buy from the other agent. He says, what do you mean? I want you to do a comparison. I says, I can't do a comparison. He says, why not? I says, I'm really lousy at basketball. He says, wait a minute, I don't get what you're talking about. I said, I know you don't. I says, but the concept that you can do what I do after 20 years of experience and hours of education as a part-time job turns my stomach because all you're doing is you're going out peddling a policy. Most of the agents don't know what they're selling because the manager says sell this.
Hmm.
So it's not that I object to somebody transitioning from one business to another because everybody has to do that. Unless you chose this right out of school, you have to pay your bills. I understand that. But we're getting to a system where we have professional part-time agents.
Hmm.
Well, I don't believe that you can be successful. And when I say success, I don't mean just making a buck, because that part's easy. Making a commission is not difficult. When I say success, I'm talking to be able to deliver to your client the best possible product and be there to service it all the time. Unfortunately, I just lost my largest and oldest client at age 90. She's been a client of my father's and then mine for the last 35 to 40 years. We had the pleasure and the honor of working with this woman and her family through now into the fourth generation of her family. Her go-to statement to her kids was always the same. If you had a financial question, call Mike. Okay. Was I pleased with that? Yes. Did I deserve it? Nah, that's questionable. I thought I did. And obviously she thought I did. But you can't do that if you're not a student of the business. You can't do that if you're not a student of what is the best thing I can do for my client. I tell agents all the time, the weakest part of this business is when we go out on a joint case and we close it, and the agent turns to me and says, Mike, what did we make? My normal response is, I don't have a clue. Now, I do. You know, if I stop and think about it, I know what the standards are. I know what the commissions are. But that's not how I think. And I tell the new agent, I said, you know, when you go in for an appendectomy and they have you on the gurney and they're taking you into the OR, the last thing you want to think about is that the doctor's going, this is the payment on my next Mercedes payment. You want the doctor to be, what do I need to do to make sure this appendectomy goes exactly the way we planned it? Well, it's no difference with an insurance agent. Instead of, you know, surgical, it's financial. But the concept is the same. When you go see that client, you want to do the best job. And the only way you do that is if you're committed that this is your life's work and you're going to do the best job for every client. My dad used to tell me the only difference between the millionaire client and the blue collar worker is the number of zeros on the policy.
Yeah.
And for the blue collar, that number of zeros is a higher percentage of their total income than even for the millionaire. So it's even more critical. That's why I'm not a fan of lifelong part-time agents. Making a transition is one thing, but you got to make the transition, make the commitment, and go out and do it.
So you know, you brought up some really good points, because if we're going to look at financial services as an umbrella, it has a lot of different variables and verticals, and insurance is one of them, mortgage is another one, real estate is another one, and so on and so forth, right? And here's what's really interesting to me. So when people talk about commissions, they talk like take a look at a traditional car sale, you know, and I'm talking about before like Carvana and all these online, you know, they have the appearance that they're not paying a commission, but somehow it's still being, you know, charged as a commission because there's no negotiating. Well, in a traditional car sale, and then I'm not talking bad about the industry, I'm talking bad about the bad apples of the industry. Right. Well, a client, somebody going to buy a car is going to be very hesitant because they kind of know that somebody's kind of out to get them. Well, in a way, it's true, because if it depends on their level of being able to negotiate that car purchase. Well, the car salesperson is going to get a commission from depending on how much they can negotiate, you know, the deal, right? So with a finance person, which is another thing that people don't understand, and then if they can sell them the finance package, there's even more commissions there. Now, this is not something anyone is willing to open up and talk about, but here's the essence. It costs the client something. Okay, let's talk about real estate and mortgages. The client goes in and you know, purchases a home. They're either going to pay some points to get the interest rate that they want to get. They're gonna definitely pay heavily upfront in mortgage interest, and we've done some videos about this. excuse me. But then they're also going to do a split commission between the listing agent and the selling agent. So there's a cost to the client to acquire this home. How much does a client pay when an insurance policy gets placed? Zero. The insurance companies pay the agents for a marketing fee to go out and get this business because they know that it's a relationship business, right? Now, here's the interesting thing, Mike, that you were kind of alluding to earlier on the part-time agents. A part-time agent will usually go with a senior agent. Mike, what's your definition? What's your definition of a senior agent?
I spent a couple years going around to different companies and actually working for different companies. So I wanted to learn all the parts of the industry inside out. And I went to this one company. I won't mention WFG.
Oh,
but I remember that they told me when I started there, and I'd already had 25 years in the industry, that as a new agent, I had to split the 10 policies that I would sell first with a senior agent. And I said, well, okay. And then I realized after meeting the senior agent that he had went through the front door 5 minutes before I did. Okay, so he was absolutely worthless to me, especially because 25 years in the business, I was his senior business wise. But the way that the industry attracts people is by recruiting people. Well, wait a minute. There's something missing from that calculation, which is how do you service the client? Because the agent that went through the door 5 minutes before I did had no better idea to service the client than I would have if I had been brand new.
mm-hmm.
I knew more simply because I had the experience. So this is a fallacy. This is okay for the marketing company, but not necessarily for the client. And the ironic part is that company actually had good products. It wasn't that the products were bad. But you know what? I've talked to a lot of mechanics, and I've been told that, if you use the wrong size wrench and strip a bolt and have to replace a complete part because you stripped a bolt, you didn't do the client any favors. Well, it's no different financially. Mm-hmm. You could use the best insurance product in the world, but if it's not the product that's correct for whatever the need is, it's like stripping a bolt. You've done some damage. And the horrible part is our industry is nothing but promises. So when I sit down with a client, I'm making a promise that's hopefully 25 or 30 years in the future, i.e. they're passing. So we're not going to know whether or not I stripped the bolt. We're not going to know whether that product really does the job that I said it was going to do until it's too late to do anything about it. Well, in my case, I've been extremely fortunate in that I knew the right products in most cases. And if I didn't, I found out real quick. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about the part-time agents who come into the business and are gone in a year, the damage that they do, the damage that they do to clients, the damage that they do to the industry. I've told people many times, I spend as much time repairing damage that other agents have done as I do selling a product, maybe more. So part-time agents, yes, they got to make a transition. I'm not against people getting into our industry, just the opposite. Mm-hmm. I want people coming into our industry, they're going to be here. We are still less than 1% of the agents that start this year will be here 13 months from now.
Wow.
Less than 1%.
Wow. That's a huge failure rate. Yeah. So you and we will do a separate video talking about the different models that exist. One of them is the recruitment model. The other one is the leads-based model. And then the third one will be more like you're a captive agent. So you represent a well-known company and they pay your salary and stuff, but there's still a kind of a model there. But you were referring to the senior agent as really somebody who's stepped in the door a few minutes before you, and in your case it was really awkward because you got 51 years of experience, and that was like an odd thing to do.
I actually had the opportunity to trade him a little bit.
Yeah, you did. And but at the same time, it's the idea of like, we're gonna eat off of this new agent, and so the split on that is going to be this or that, and unfortunately, a lot of them don't really learn anything, right?
No.
And then on top of that, you have the corporation or the company that does it. This is one of your pet peeves, and we'll be able to end after this. Is they make you buy the insurance so that you could do the business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big pet peeve of yours. So tell everybody what you're referring to and how it works.
I got into a confrontation with one company because they told me I had to buy their E&O insurance. Now, for
Errors and
somebody,
omissions. Yeah, errors and
errors and
omissions
omissions.
insurance so that you
Now, for
can write
somebody
business.
watching who doesn't know what that's all about, agents have to have E&O, errors and omissions, because if they do make a mistake, it could be substantial on a financial basis. And they said I had to buy their, errors and omissions, their E&O. And I said, well, okay, at this point in my career, I've already been in the business over 35 years. And I knew that E&O is sold two different ways. One policy is sold as you sell a new policy, it's covered by the E&O policy. Another type of E&O policy covers any policy you've ever written throughout your history. Well, obviously, I needed the latter because I had 35 years of clientele. And after going through 3 or 4 people, all the senior agents, as well as the manager, who couldn't answer the question, I finally got to home office and they said, oh no, our policy just covers what you write with us. I says, well, wait a minute. I says, I've got probably $15,000, $20,000 on the books that's now exposed because if I get a claim on something like that I sold 20 years ago, you're not going to cover it. And they said, oh, that's right. What we tell agents to do is buy 2 policies, buy one to cover that and then ours. I said, that makes no sense. I'll tell you what, I know there's a premium difference between the 2 types of policies. That makes sense. I'll buy yours and you just give me, the difference and I'll pay you the difference so that I'll pay your premium and I'll pay rather than having 2 separate policies. Oh, we can't do that. So I started doing a little bit of investigation and went and found out that what they were doing is they were charging every agent, and at the time, I think it was $30 a month. I don't remember the number.
35 probably, yeah.
Probably 35. Okay. Well, only part of that was used to cover the insurance because they bought it through a reinsurer, which again, inside our industry, agents will learn about that type of the policy. But anyway, and they were keeping somewhere around $15 a month that they were pocketing. So this was a money-making scheme for the insurance company that had no benefit to the client and had no benefit to the agent, especially if the agent had business prior to that company. And the other problem that I disliked about it, it was never disclosed that way. If I had not been a pain in the butt and did a little investigation, nobody in the agency I was in would know that anything that they wrote before they started there wasn't covered. So at some point, if there was a lawsuit, they could get wiped out. And the company didn't care because they didn't bother telling the agent that. So yeah, not a happy thing.
And they probably made it very convenient, meaning, easy payment terms. Look, you don't have to pay anything until you sell a policy. And then when you sell the policy, then every single month that you didn't pay, we'll take, the E&O amount from that, commission. And then the rest of it you'll get, and you'll be up to date. And
well, they made it so easy that the original documentation when I started there included the authorization form to take it directly out of my checking account.
oh my. Okay.
That's what made me question it in the first place.
So, okay. So now that we are done making the industry mad, hopefully the smart agents will start to realize that there's more to doing this, and if they do the part-time thing, they do the senior agent thing, they E&O, like through us, well, red flags, right? Red flags. Now just You didn't mention any names. You were spelling something, but you didn't mention any names. We don't want
I'm a
anybody to
bad
get
speller
upset.
too.
But we will do a follow-up to the industry, because look, I believe that everyone deserves a chance. And what you're probably told is the only chance you got was an opportunity to come into this business, and then you left to do the part-time thing, and like you already went over the numbers, and so the success ratio really, you're going against the odds. But what the industry stands for, when applied correctly, when the tool is right, and it's applied to the end user, to the client, and we, like you said, you don't go into it thinking how much you're going to get. I mean, that's the worst thing, for anybody to think first of what they're going to get before they service the client. But there is so much opportunity to do the right thing, and as you do that, and you go out with someone who has the experience, and most of the agents are going to do like the entry level stuff. I mean, they think advanced sales is an IUL. That's what they think. I mean, we talk about infinite banking, we talk about OPM, banking arbitrage with insurance products. We talk about life settlements. I mean, these are things that any agent, and they don't even have to be, captive to us. There's a way for them to write this stuff through without having to, give up whatever position they have with whatever company they have. And, this is what they want to do. But there's a series of videos that we've done. They could look in and go back and watch some of them, so they can get the education that they need, and look forward to the next video that we're going to be doing, where we actually break down the 3 different models that exist: the recruiting model, the leads model, and the captive model. So any final thoughts there, Mike?
Just especially to the new agent. Don't try to run before you crawl, and you walk a little bit. There's nothing wrong with selling any policy that's properly placed for the benefit of the client. I don't care if it's a large policy or a small policy. If you're helping people, then you're living up to the commitment that our profession makes to society. We're going to help them deal with the worst time in their life. So don't think you have to rush out and try to sell some big policy. All you're going to do is fall on your face, and you're going to look kind of stupid. Sell what you learn. When you first start on this business, if you take just 1 or 2 policies, learn them inside out, learn the proper client for those policies, and stay in that marketplace, everything else is a natural progression. Because if you're out there, you're going to run across the person who needs the infinite banking. You're going to run across the person who can use the OPM, and you're going to run across the person for life settlements. So it's not something you need to pursue. What you need to pursue is excellence at the level that you are when you start in this business. Get a senior agent to help you. You will find the best agents are always willing to help you, because they're not in the business just for the income. They enjoy the income, but they actually believe in what they're doing.
Excellent. Well, Mike, you are a 51-year in the business part-time agent. I've been 20 years in mortgage banking, and over a decade in financial services. We're delighted, really, to talk to people who want to step up their game. This has been another episode of Advanced Insurance Services. Mike Domico, thanks for joining me. Guys, Mynor Ramos here. Until next time, look out for those links and the descriptions and the next videos that we talking about the industry and what's wrong with it and how we fix it. Thanks, guys.
Mynor, thank you.
Thank you.